I'm Mike with VW Farm. We are stringing up our tomatoes today, and we're going to show you why we don't like tomato cages. But first, we need to go silence the haters. Yeah, we need to silence our haters. We have some cabbages that getting a little lunch snack. Because if we don't do that, we'll hear them because they'll see us in the garden. Right, Black Nose? You'll see us in the garden. Happy animals, happy farm. Wow, we have over like 30 tomatoes. So this is why we don't like tomato cages. The tomato cage is good for if you have 10 tomatoes or less, in our opinion. These tomatoes are pretty well established now, and in order to get a cage in there, we'd have to scrunch this tomato up and kind of feed it in there. Now what happens is you can actually disrupt the roots if they're well established like these, with the prods that go into the ground to hold the cage up, and we don't want that. Ideally, you want to get them in the ground before they get this well established, but life gets in the way. So our solution is this. We have 3 T-posts all the way down the line of tomatoes. Leah is balling up some baling twine from our hay bales out back. And that whole pile of baling twine only took us about, I'd say, 3.5 minutes to collect. What we're going to do, and we've done in the past very successfully, is we're going to run baling twine all the way down and all the way back up. The thing about the baling twine is you're not limited to height. The only height limitations you have is how tall your T-post is. And it's easier to store than tomato cages. We don't like tomato cages because you have to replace them after so many years, or the feet get bent. They won't stack up like they do in the store all nice. They take up a larger footprint than 3 T-posts, a post pounder, and some baling twine. And this is why we do it this way, because it's cheaper in the long run and it's more effective. All we are doing is we're tying a knot, just connecting the baling twine. Now, this is great for us because baling twine just kind of builds up around the farm. You might not have the luxury of baling twine, but I know your local hardware store probably has twine or a heavier gauge string that you can use and substitute. Or if you are friends with a farmer or know of a couple farms, they probably have a bunch of used baling twine. And then, like we said, it took us about 3.5 minutes to gather up this huge pile, and I'm just rolling it up into a ball right now. Now, cost is a huge concern of ours. We have over 30 tomato plants, and if we bought tomato cages for each plant, we're looking at a whopping $100 bill. T-posts for heavy duty T-posts are $6.99 a piece. The post pounder is about 40 bucks. So you're looking at, for 3 T-posts and a post pounder, you're looking at about $60 of startup costs on it. Tomato cages are about $3 to $4 a piece if you can find them. So it makes sense for us to use T-posts and baling twine. Now, if you don't want to buy the post pounder or the heavy duty T-posts, you can get a post that has a spike on the end of it that you just use your foot to put down. Mind you, it will be a little bit more flimsier, so you might need a couple more, but they are cheaper and you don't need the post pounder. Here's our ball of twine. I bet Minerva would like this very much. Let's go string up those tomatoes. With this method, you want to start out low. We're just going to tie to this first T-post. Grab your ball of twine. Bring it right down the center and wrap around the next T-post. With it tied up to the next T-post, you want to move your plants aside. This is a great chance to weed in between the plants while you're there. But you want to get that twine nice and low. And you want to pull it as tight as you can. So now that we're at our next T-post, pull that tight, and you can see I have about, I'd say about 2 inches of slack that I just removed out of that, which is a good thing. So we're going to tighten that up, and then we're going to continue on to our last T-post. Pull this tight. At the end of each row, I always wrap it twice, and then start making your way up to the next level. When you're at your desired height, I always go around the T-post once or twice to keep it there. And now you take your ball and you walk down the line again.
Does this only work with tomatoes?
No, it does not. You can do this with any plant. You can do this with any plant. Tomatoes. If you need to brace your sunflowers, your pole beans, your peas, anything that needs support. And then remember, on the ends, I usually wrap it twice. There. Now that you have your tomatoes or your tomato trellis lined up, cut a little piece of baling twine or string and take the plant, and you're going to want to loosely tie the stem. I'm going to emphasize loosely. If you tie it tight to the stem, it'll constrict its growth. And you don't want that. You don't want to constrict its growth. This one's a little bit taller. So this is going to do 2 great benefits. The first one, you're staking your tomatoes. That's the main reason. The second one is, instead of letting them lay in this area here and, you know, covering up the weeds and everything else, you're going to allow the airflow to get in there and help prevent disease such as blight, because blight is always a factor. And another way to prevent blight is to trim these bottom leaves off, which we're going to do after we get them staked up. Blight is a fungal disease that comes in at any time, usually in the fall, and it causes the plant to die. It literally wreaks havoc on your tomatoes. If you catch blight early enough, there is ways to prevent it by trimming off the affected leaves. I've tried the baking soda spray that you find online. We always made it a little too strong, so it burned the leaves. The easiest way that we found to prevent blight is to prevent blight to begin with. But if you happen to get blight, another easy way to do it is to trim off those bottom effective leaves before it spreads. That's the biggest thing. That's why we use soaker hoses for our tomatoes, because we don't want the water to touch those leaves and to really cause blight to start to form to begin with. Here's some nice pruned, staked up, weeded tomatoes. And in some areas, you know, you can see right through the other side, and that's what you want. You want that airflow to fly through there. Looks like the goats are getting a treat. Let's go feed them. Hey Hector, it is warm out today. You guys are enjoying the sunshine, aren't you though? It is nice and cold back here. You guys like tomatoes? They get all the scraps from the garden. They get any rotting, well, not rotting food, but any food that is past the point of where we can eat it. So they love tomato clippings. They love weeds. They'll take about anything, won't you? Won't you, buddy? Might take your finger if you're not careful. Gotta watch out for that. Yeah. And the chickens will scratch through them too. They like a little bit of fresh stuff. Isn't that right? It's certainly getting warm out. So in conclusion, tomato cages are cumbersome to store. They're a bit pricier. and they're not really good for what we're using them for. This method, we've done it multiple years. It works out fine, and it's easier to store, and it's cheaper in the long run. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and share, subscribe to our channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.